Welcome to the Beach Bucket Podcast. Today we are talking to Dr. Susan Adelizi Schmidt, President of Persuasion Communications Group. Persuasion's Communication Group is a full-service marketing group with 16 years of service providing customized campaigns for tourism destinations, municipalities, corporations, retail, healthcare, financial, and nonprofit organizations. Persuasion has been named to the prestigious Philadelphia Business Journal's top full-service marketing agency list for the past 6 years, has been recognized with 10 NJTIA Tourism Excellence Awards. Susan has been named to Philadelphia Style Magazine's 2021 Power Players and 2020's Dynamic Women of Greater Philadelphia. She has also received the Folio Top Women in Media Award, recognizing women trailblazers, leaders, advocates, and mentors of the industry. Philadelphia Business Journal's South Jersey Entrepreneur of the Year Award, and Stockton University's School of Graduate Studies and Professional Achievement Award. And with that, we welcome Dr. Susan Adelizi Schmidt to the podcast.
It's great to be here, Gretchen.
Thank you for taking time to talk with us.
It's my pleasure.
How is your week going?
Oh, it's fantastic. It's Friday. So
it is Friday.
It's getting better.
So, persuasion, the art of persuasion. Let's talk about that. How much of marketing is the art of persuasion?
Well, I think the art of persuasion carries through everything that we do. And certainly in marketing and all the fundamentals that you would ever learn if you were a marketing graduate or a marketing student is understanding that there is so much that goes into what makes someone make a choice, particularly with a brand. And, there are impulsive choices, of course, that we make, if we're buying a slice of pizza somewhere or something like that. But, I'm talking about long time brand affinity that you build. And that's really something that we specialize in. And the art of persuasion then can carry through marketing, through public relations, through digital, through websites, and so forth. And, it's really about communicating messages that are going to resonate with your target audience and getting them to engage with you and, of course, converting them into hopefully long-time customers.
Now, when you have a potential client that's walking through the door, do they have a good idea of what they need, or are you kind of taking them by the hand and saying in your consultation process, hey, this is the direction we think you need to go?
I think it's a little bit of both, Gretchen. I think certainly when someone walks through the door or they call us, they know they need help in the marketing and PR realm. They may not know exactly what they need, or maybe they do. Maybe they just need help with social media, or maybe they know that they need an advertising campaign or a new website. So those things sometimes are a little easier to define. When someone approaches us about doing work for them and they want to heighten their brand awareness, well, that's a very nebulous kind of question to ask us. But, that's where we, do a deep dive, what I call an archaeological dig into the brand, and really become great students of the brand, understand the essence of that brand, the history, all of the targets, understanding what the customers are all about, what they're looking for, what their pain point is very important to understand. What's the pain point? Why is the customer coming to that particular business? What is the business solving for that customer? So we do a lot of investigation before we get started with recommendations. But yes, we do take our customers by the hand and engage with them and really, I think, listen. That's the bottom line. You have to listen to your clients. You have to get a great understanding of where they are, and what you can do to serve them and what you could do to boost their brand in the marketplace.
So even if someone's coming in and just saying, hey, look, I need a new website, do you sit down with them and say, actually, you need a whole new branding.
Well, yeah, well, sure. We get into that. I mean, we definitely look more comprehensively at the overall picture. It isn't, we don't have blinders on and, just look at the one project. And, sometimes we'll say, the website is a little clunky. It's old, but, also your social media hasn't had a post in a year,
Sure.
so, we'll bring up other things that come up, in our investigative process, and collaborate with the client. It's a very collaborative process every step of the way, every day. We're collaborating with our clients. We're listening to them. We're giving them very, astute feedback, and hopefully, making them aware of everything that is available to them. Sometimes clients want to do everything and they can't because of budget, but also because they don't have the kind of the wherewithal internally to be able to even handle the additional business that they think they may want, but they have to have the bandwidth to be able to, kind of deal with expanding their business and so forth. So there are a lot of things that need to be looked at in any circumstance. It may seem simple, like we just need a new website, but it's never that simple. Really, there's so many other facets of the overall picture and the overall branding that you have to take a look at. And where is that client in the marketplace? So is it a new client? Is it a brand new business? Is it, a fairly established business that's looking to grow? Or is it more of a legacy brand that is just trying to continue to retain its position in the marketplace or maybe gain market share in new areas?
Mm-hmm. Now, you offer a full suite of services here, and I want to talk a little bit about what those offerings are. Now, let's talk a little bit about branding. What is branding?
So this is actually a great question, and it's one that I pose to my students. I'm also an adjunct faculty member in the School of Business at Stockton University, and I've been teaching there for a long time. I teach marketing and advertising. So one of the first questions on the first day of class is, what is a brand? And, a lot of them say it's a logo, which of course that's one component of the brand, or they'll say a lot of different things. But, I always kind of egg them on a little bit, and I'm like, it begins with a P. This is the word I'm looking for. And the word is promise. A brand is a promise. And think about it, Gretchen. Anytime that you have an affinity for a brand, it's because it's delivered the goods for you, right? Whether it's, going to the local pizza shop, or it's buying a car, or if it's going on vacation and you always stay in the same brand hotel. I mean, there's affinity that's built up because that brand has delivered on its promise time and time again. And that's why franchises are so successful. So if you go to McDonald's, here in South Jersey, and then you go to a McDonald's in, in Connecticut, probably there's going to be a similar offering, right? Because you're looking for the delivery of that brand promise and that continuity. So that's what I really feel the essence of a brand is all about. But it's about so many things. And this is where sometimes students will get confused because they'll think, oh, it's just a logo. I just think it's all about the logo. And of course, the logo is one component of the brand, but think about it. It's everything, right? All of these little micro touches along the way that you are encountering with that brand. How do they treat you? How do they make you feel? When you walk into the store, if it's a retail store, I mean, are they greeting you? Are they making you feel good? Do they recognize you? That's why mom and pops have, I think really do a wonderful job. The ones that have been around year after year after year, those are the ones that can recognize their customers when they come in, call them by name, know what they're going to order. Those are the types of things that really help to build a brand. And that's delivering on the promise as well. It could be your website. It could be the way you answer the phone. It could certainly be your social media. Now more than ever, that's such a very vital component. So it's all of these things that are building the brand. And, brands that have vitality, brands that keep reinventing themselves in the marketplace and realize that they can't just sit back. If they're successful, you can never sit back. You always have to be thinking about what's next. what's coming down the pike. How can I make it better? How can I make it easier for my customers and clients to do business with me? And what else can I offer to them to, again, satisfy those pain points and make them want to do even more business and recommend your business?
What do you do if a product has a brand that they are failing with? That brand is not working? Because I'm guessing it's easier to promote a brand that's kind of new.
So I think there are two facets to this question, and I want to go back to your point about a new business. So new businesses do get some passes sometimes, at least initially. Right? It's a brand new business and they're opening up. They may have a ribbon cutting ceremony. They may get some initial PR hits and, some initial attention. It takes a lot of energy and money to get the information out there about a new brand. So you can't just assume, oh, I open my doors, I open, they will come. It takes a lot of work. Any entrepreneur could tell you that, to get your name out in the marketplace if you have a brand new business. All right, brand new name, brand new business. It could take years to build up that brand. So it isn't just an instant on because you're new that you're going to be well known and well received. Especially if it's a business that isn't necessarily the run-of-the-mill type of business. If it's something a little bit different, that may take even longer for people to understand what it is, what your brand is all about. I mean, it takes a lot of work and a lot of hustle to really intersect and get people to understand if you have a new business. So I don't want to underestimate that, right? Mm-hmm. But to get to your other point, okay, so if you have a brand and it's not necessarily doing all the things that you want it to do, well, that's where if you hire an agency like us, or if you're going to reinvent yourself, you can always revitalize your brand. You can rebrand yourself as an organization. But I think it really comes down to looking at, well, where is the fail happening? All right. So you said it was failing. So, is it happening because you're just not getting enough customers through the door? Are customers complaining? Are you losing customers? I think there's some operational fixes as well that need to be looked at, Gretchen. It's not just a marketing happy face that you put out there, because if all of those operational problems are still happening, even if you rebranded, you're still going to lose market share. So I think that's partially what you have to take a look at as well if a business is failing. But, certainly marketing can help to get the messaging out there, to revitalize and so forth. But, you have to look at a business holistically. It's, marketing is one component, and you can market really till the cows come home. I mean, you can spend tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing. If you don't deliver the goods, it doesn't matter, because the customer will be dissatisfied and the customer will not keep coming to you. And worse, they'll go online and they'll say terrible things about you. So it's, I think really a lot of times when we see those issues, luckily in our client portfolio right now, we don't have any of those types of clients, but it's not to say that I've never seen this before. I think really there has to be an internal look operationally before even you get to the marketing side of things, and say, what could we be doing better? What can we be tightening up to make it so our customers are happy and glowing and saying wonderful things about us? And then I think the marketing will just follow suit. But you got to have both of those in place.
That makes sense. Do you need, on the marketing side of it, to be an expert on that product, on that brand?
I think in our case, we become experts if we're not already. We are industry agnostic, which means in the agency business that we work with a lot of different types of clients. It's not just, one particular industry, but we're very astute. We've been at this for a long time. And, I think we really do our homework and we put the work in, and you have to do that. You can't just instant on somebody hires you and start putting out messages if you haven't done your homework, if you haven't really done what I call that archaeological dig, that brand discovery, and understanding where the brand is in the marketplace at that given time. And Gretchen, brands change minute by minute. This is, in our marketplace right now, I mean, it's such an exciting time. It sounds funny. It's an exciting time to be alive, but it is. I mean, we have so much at our fingertips that can elevate a brand. And I mean, TikTok is a perfect example of that. I mean, Reels, all these great things that you can do to help to vitalize your brand and get the name out there are at your fingertips. And, it's a matter of utilizing which ones make sense for your specific target demographics.
How do you find your target audience?
So I think most businesses, if they come to us, they have a fairly decent idea of, who's doing business with me already, which demographics, where are they coming from, which zip codes, and so forth. I mean, in South Jersey, of course, particularly at the shore, there's a different dynamic going on because of the tourism trade. But we have clients, certainly all across New Jersey, Northern New Jersey, and Philadelphia, and so forth in the suburbs. So it's a matter of taking a look at, who are your clients currently, but then also there are, who are the clients that you're aspiring for, right? And figuring out where they are and how, where do they get their information from? And then putting your messages out in front of them. And it's a multifaceted approach, Gretchen. It cannot just be one thing. You cannot, in my opinion, just do social media. You could, but you're not going to get the same impact or what they call the multiplier effect if you have various marketing in various channels. So, certainly social, in many cases is a very important channel. But, you don't overlook traditional media. I mean, you've got billboards, you've got TV, you have streaming, you have radio, you have, plenty of other ways, and certainly networking and sponsorships and chambers of commerce. And there's just so many different ways to connect out into the marketplace. But you have to understand, first of all, is it a B2B situation or a B2C? Is it business to business or is it business to consumer? And then that's going to help you to, refine your demographics. But to drill down on this subject a little bit more, doing surveys, doing focus groups, there's lots of ways to get feedback from people and to get a better understanding of what it is that how they see your brand, what you can be doing to better serve them. There's, those types of strategies, and doing it regularly, having those types of surveys. And I love focus groups. I've facilitated many a focus group. And you get raw data from a focus group that you'll never get in a survey. Right. And it's just awesome feedback that you can get about your brand, about your brand messaging, about, if people have come in and experienced your business, what did they encounter? Were there happy smiling faces when they walked in the door, or were they treated poorly? So, that kind of raw feedback that you can get in a focus group, again, you would probably never get in a written survey. And surveys are tough sometimes. People don't want to fill them out unless they're going to get something in return, which, I understand. So, focus groups, I think, are a little bit more of an elevated way to get that kind of information that you're looking for regarding your market and your demographics.
Are small business owners relying too much just on social media these days?
Well, I think it's easy and it's cheap. I mean, you can't blame small business owners for going to social media as a means to get their messaging out. In many cases, for retailers, for restaurants, I mean, social media could be really the only way that they have to market. They may not have the wherewithal to be able to do much more than that. It's expensive to market, and sometimes they just don't have the profit margins to be able to invest in those other types of marketing. So you have to look at each individual business. That's what we do at Persuasion as an agency. It's never a one size fits all. Every single thing that we do in terms of our strategy, our campaigns, it's all custom built based on that business and whatever's trending, and looking at market trends and looking at what's happening within the marketplace. So you can never just take something off the shelf and say, oh, well, this worked last year, let's try this out. It doesn't work that way. We are up on the trends. We are up on what's happening in the marketplace. And every campaign that we design is really based on, everything that's certainly, hot and current, and the approaches as well, based on what that business is and what their targets are.
Public relations.
Yes. One of my favorite subjects.
Okay. Let's talk public relations. What does Persuasion offer?
So in the public relations realm, what we're talking about here, in my opinion, is securing positive stories for businesses and organizations. And I have a tremendous background in PR. I've spent decades working in PR. I have a tremendous media contact base, friends with a lot of media people. I've been working with media people for probably about over 25 years now, and I love it. PR it's an art form. It's something I want to say, of all of the types of communication, it sometimes can really get confusing for people. They just don't understand it. I mean, sometimes people will call me up and they'll be like, well, we just need to buy some PR. Well, you don't buy PR, you earn PR. Mm-hmm. And the other term that's used to describe PR is earned media. So what does that mean? There's paid media, that's advertising. And in my book, actually, advertising is much easier. You buy the ad runs. You see what the metrics are from that ad and whether or not it's resonating, if it's, if it's creating conversions for you, if you're getting sales from it, if you're getting the anticipated results from that, of course, then you would continue to advertise. In PR, you actually have to muscle your way into getting those stories, right? So there's no guarantee with PR. You don't just put out a press release and you're guaranteed to get pickup. You got to go and muscle your way in. And that's where the contacts really help. That's where knowing a lot of the media, being a trusted source for information to the media. We get media people call us all the time, asking us what's going on in such a place or with an organization and so forth, because they know we're going to give them the information that they're looking for and give it to them in a timely fashion. I actually started my career in news. Mm-hmm. So I started off as a news reporter in radio and in television. And so I know how to produce news packages. I know what news reporters are looking for. And many of them they don't have time. They're under deadline. It's very demanding. And, we know how to deliver exactly what they're looking for. We also do a lot of production. So we have major media outlets that will come in and want to do stories, and we set up the whole thing. We act as a concierge. So we will put together itineraries. We will put together interviews. I mean, we basically act as that liaison and putting all of that together for media. So those are just some of the components of PR. We could talk a little bit about crisis communications too, because I also have a tremendous amount of experience and expertise in that line. We have dealt with many crises with our clients over the years and help to shepherd them through those crises and make sure that their brand is intact and is maintained. Because when a crisis happens, that's, you're really working and striving toward that as a PR professional. Mm-hmm. And having, certainly a crisis communications plan in place before the crisis happens and those types of things. That's what we help our clients with. That's what we collaborate with and strategize with. So if a crisis should ensue, they are well versed and well taken care of. Scenarios, plans, these are all things that we do in advance.
Give me an example.
Well, I would say, without naming names, there have been a couple of times where we've been on site helping a client deal with, a situation. It could be someone, getting hurt. where they need somebody, there's news crews coming on, and, you need somebody there to deal with the news crews. You need to issue statements. You need to decide whether or not you're even going to stay open that day, or if you're going to write a message, that's sensitive to the situation on your website. So those are some of the things that we would be looking at in terms of, creating statements and, what to put out on social media and so forth, and how to communicate with the media if the media are there or if they're calling. You don't ever want to say no comment.
Sure.
It's just not, best practices.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, you want to take ownership of the situation as best as you can. Sometimes things are just developing. It's there's a little bit of chaos, of course, whenever there's a crisis. But you want to make sure that you have presence. If ownership or management, is on site, we will be there. We have been there many a time, shepherding them and strategizing with them and helping them to coaching them through various situations.
Digital marketing and social media campaigns.
Another one of my favorites.
Now, I think this one, a lot of people try to do it on their own.
Yeah, and they can. I mean, social media has made it so if you have a little bit of savvy and you have the wherewithal and the bandwidth to do it, you can be putting out certainly your own videos, your own reels, postings, and so forth. So it's a matter of whether or not that client wants to do that on their own, or if they want to hire us to do it for them. So we handle social media for a lot of different clients, and it's, I think it's a very important information source for a lot of the organizations and businesses that we work with. Going over to digital, I mean, I just feel like now more than ever, if you're trying to connect with people, you need to be doing so through not just organic social media, but through social media advertising and digital advertising. And it's very inexpensive for the most part. I mean, everything is relevant, right? So you could spend certainly big money on digital and social as well. But for the smaller business person, they could be spending under $100 in a month and still be getting good traction on their ads, particularly on social media. So two very important pieces of the puzzle. But I always challenge people to also look beyond that, particularly my students who they only think they're social and digital. But they're overlooking the fact that there is a whole world of people that may not be Gen Zs and millennials. There are Gen Xs, there are boomers, there are even seniors that are out in the universe that have big discretionary incomes. Don't forget those folks, right? Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that you're catering to them as well. They may not live on their phones. So you may need to do some advertising on the radio. You may need to consider doing TV, certainly streaming as well, and billboards and other types of advertising. How
effective are those social media campaigns? Are they going to convert to just likes on social media, or are they going to convert to a sale?
It depends if you have a call to action. If you're just putting out kind of bland, we're here kind of posts. I mean, informational posts are important, particularly at the shore. I mean, people need to know when you're open, if you're closed for the season, those types of things. But if you have a specific call to action, book direct if you're a hotel, right? Don't use the big travel online booking systems. That's one we see a lot of. And that's one, we work with a lot of hotels, and there is a specific call to action. If you have a promotion going on, if you have, just a special, these are things that are going to make people take action. So call to action, very important. And if you're getting that out there regularly, if you have, just specials or merchandise that is limited, these are all things that get people to move and to take action quicker.
Are some platforms more effective than other platforms?
It just depends on really the quality of your postings, because you could be doing, and also quantity always becomes the question too. Like, oh, I'm posting all the time, but I'm not getting any traction. Well, what's the quality of your posts? A lot of times people can post too much, right? If they're not high quality, that's really what you have to look at. And what constitutes high quality, in my opinion? You'd have video. Video is king. I mean, that's, what people like to look at. And again, call to action. You've got variety in your postings and so forth. I mean, we can go down a long list of what makes a post viable. But, social media has to be looked at specifically based on demographics. So, obviously if you're targeting Zs, you want to make sure that you've got some, some TikToks going on. Snapchat's probably maybe not to the same degree as, maybe Instagram. I think Snapchat maybe had its day. I don't know if it's as popular, probably not as popular right now. It doesn't mean it won't come back. It's, it's one of those things. But TikTok really right now is kind of reigning high, as well as Instagram among Zs and millennials. But don't discount Facebook. I mean, this is the crazy thing, and when I'm talking to my students, of course, they think only old people are on Facebook. I get it. Their moms and dads are. And in their book, when you're 20, of course, that's your mom and dad are old. But I'm always reinforcing with them, Facebook is, it's billions of people on there. Don't overlook it. And particularly if your demographic is that you're targeting is older, if it's 35 plus, the older the demographic, the more likelihood they're going to be on Facebook.
Well, it depends on who you're selling to.
And they're also trending more on Instagram, I think, the older generations. And then we can get into Pinterest. We can get into LinkedIn. I mean, if you're B2B, you need to be on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is so powerful, and it's often overlooked in terms of just communication and posting. Although I have noticed as of late, in the last couple of years, I see more people getting aggressive with LinkedIn. I think it's a very viable platform, and one that you can, particularly if you're B2B, but even if you're B2C, I think LinkedIn is extremely powerful.
Is there any target market where digital marketing doesn't work?
Not that I can think of. Not that I could think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there is an example somewhere, but I can't think of one right now. I think digital and social really do play a really important role in the marketing universe right now. And it's only going to gain more market share, I think, in terms of, getting more people to advertise on it. But again, I can't stress enough, look at the whole picture, right? And make sure that you might have to have 4 or 5 campaigns going on if you have 4 or 5 different generations that are buying from you. So you can't just put it all in one place. You got to think very thoroughly about all the niche markets that you have, right? You may have business markets. You may be appealing to weddings. Brides don't want anything to do with business, right? So you've got to have a whole different campaign for your bridal market than you do for your corporate market. So that's just one of many examples of different niche markets that you need to consider.
Email marketing campaigns.
I love those too. Right. And they're so highly effective. This is another thing that I get on with my students sometimes, because they abhor email. They don't like email, but email, this is the great thing about email. If you're trying to get a message across and you have an awesome subject line, it's all about the subject line. Think about it. If the subject line grabs you, then you will open that email. I don't care how great the email is. If the subject line is horrible, it will not get open. So that's really, you have to think that through first. And then you have to have, again, this call to action. You have to make it worthwhile to get people to engage on an email. But think about it, what I was saying, Gretchen, if you're trying to target people that are in an office working, right? It's the best way to get into, I mean, they're looking for a diversion all day long in their inbox, right? Aren't we all? So when that email pops through and it's got a great subject line and it's something enticing, they probably are going to click on it and they probably are going to engage. So I love email. We do email blasts and newsletters for our clients all the time. We design them, we write them, and we launch them, and they work so well.
What kind of businesses benefit from email marketing?
I think all businesses, all organizations. And even if you're a nonprofit, even, Gretchen, you've got stuff going on, put it in your newsletter and then ask for a donation, right? Because people are going to respond to impressions. And an email newsletter makes another impression. It takes a lot of hits to get people to, most of the time, to get them to respond. So the more impressions that you're making and making them in different ways through different channels, that's when people start to take action.
So this is a company that has this email list and they give it to you and you come up with the subject line and the content.
Yes. The emails have to, you have to subscribe. You have to sign up to get your emails, right? You don't ever want to just spam people.
Understood.
Because there's can spam compliance. There are federal rules about just spamming people. Although, people break those rules all the time. We don't ever authorize that at our agency. We want to make sure that the lists are bona fide lists of credible people who have signed up to get this information. And, that you're sending out the information to them because they've signed up and want to hear more about your organization or business.
So you're automatically hitting your target audience.
If you already have an email list, an email list can be nurtured, through social media, through contests, through people, just signing up when they come into your place of business and so forth. So there are ways of getting emails, right? Getting people to give you their email.
And they're effective.
We have found them to be highly effective.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And you have to also think about quantity with emails. You don't want to over email. And that's where I feel like a lot of organizations and businesses, they get caught in that trap. They don't know how often to do it. Less is more when it comes to email, right? It's not the same as social posts. So you want to have a tempo and a cadence, and the same with really all of your marketing, but particularly email. You want to pick and choose how often you're sending those emails out, right? It's because you don't want to overdo it because then people will unsubscribe. There's nothing more annoying than getting 10 emails from somewhere, right? And that's what is going to make you hit the unsubscribe button. But if you're getting an email, once a month or twice a month or whatever, or an email that has something really hot, great information, great call to action, a great promotion, like that's what's going to get people to engage. But if you're just sending out like kind of bland information, that's probably not going to get people to engage, and it's probably going to be annoying. So I would say, pick your cadence very carefully, probably 2 emails, maybe more, depending on the business, but I wouldn't get crazy with it. Think about your own the way that you like to get email. I know how I like to get email, and it's probably, once or twice a month. You just don't want to oversaturate, and then, you end up killing a good thing.
Design and marketing services.
Yes. Another one of my favorite topics.
You create professional marketing and advertising materials.
Yes, we do. Yes. And this is something that we have a lot of fun with. We have designers in-house. And so if a customer has a need for, it could certainly be an email, it could be a mailed piece, it could be advertising, whatever, we can design anything. And we have designed all kinds of cool stuff over the years. We actually just had a client not that long ago come to us. He had a suite at the Army-Navy game, and he was going to be entertaining clients. And he said, "All right, Suasion, what do you got? What are you going to put together for me to get, some really high-end clients to come to this Army-Navy game?" And we put together a really slick video direct mail piece with the owner of this company actually doing the invitation in the video. And that was mailed out. And we just received unbelievable traction off of this piece. So there's, a lot of creativity that goes into what we do. We love it. We love collaborating with our clients. We love when they give us that, "All right, Suasion, what do you think?" And, we collaborate internally, and then we talk to the client, and 9 times out of 10, almost 10 times out of 10, they say, "That's a great idea. Let's do it." And we get it done.
Very nice. And then you also do website design?
Yes, we do. And website design is, it's kind of the unsung hero unless you understand website design. A lot of people just think, "Oh, I'll throw up a site, no big deal." Ugh. That pains me greatly when I hear that, because websites really are everything. That's what's it's your window to the world. It creates, that channel, that vitally important channel into your business. Social media relies on it. I mean, so many other things are connected to it. Digital is going to rely on your website. I mean, everything is interconnected. So I would never skimp on a website. There's search engine optimization. That's what's going to get people to your site. You have to have your keywords in place. There's so many mechanics to a website that I could never imagine putting a website together without that level of expertise. And that's what we bring to the table. It takes time to make really great websites, takes time, but it's so worth it. And you're going to get the return on investment over and over and over again, if you do it right when you do the website build. So it's not just about pretty pictures, although that's lovely, right? If people can't find you, really search engine optimization and the back end of the site, honestly, is more important than the front end in many cases, or just as important, I should say, because you got to get people to the site in the first place. And then, of course, the front end is going to razzle dazzle them and get them to, hopefully it's going to make a big impact and get them to convert and do business with you.
Mm-hmm. Consultation and training.
Yeah. So I do a lot of consults. I do a lot of professional training because of my affiliation, of course, with Stockton. There's a lot of kind of crossover there. I bring a lot of the stuff that I have learned from Stockton, now that I've just recently received my doctorate in organizational leadership, but I was doing these trainings and consultations long before that. But, this is like, me coming in, kind of finding out what's going on in a particular organization. Maybe you need help with managerial training. Maybe you need help with work culture. Maybe you need help with bridging the generation gap. There's so many different topics that are hot right now. And, we help to come up with strategies to help businesses do better in those areas. And then I can come in and actually conduct workshops and seminars and coaching, which I've done all of those things, to help staffs and employees get to where they want to go.
I want to shift gears a little bit. You have 2 offices, one in Summers Point and one in Haddonfield. And I want to talk a little bit about your team.
So I have an amazing team. And I have some staff that have been working with the company for since day one. That makes me very proud and very excited. Personally, I love longevity in people, and that level of commitment and that loyalty. We're a close-knit team. I think, in terms of organizational leadership, we are definitely a clan. So it's very family-like. I grew up in a family business. So I haven't had a chance to tell you a little bit about my background, but my folks actually, I grew up in the suburbs of Philadelphia, and we commuted back and forth for many years, but my parents owned businesses in the Wildwoods. So I grew up working in a hotel, from being a little kid and, kind of dealing with all of the business aspects of that motel. And, my parents ended up getting into some other businesses as well. So being a part of a business family is kind of, it's in my DNA. I don't know how to not think of it that way. Even when I worked in larger companies, when I first graduated college, I always felt like it was my work family. It's just kind of who I am. So we embrace that here at Suasion, where, I feel like it's very nurturing. It's very supportive. I feel as a leader of my team that, we all get our hands dirty. It's not, it's a flat, hierarchy kind of situation. There's no ivory tower here. We all work hard. We all hustle. We all help each other, and we all support each other. When there's big jobs that come in, when there's, a lot of work from one particular client, whatever, we stop what we're doing and we pitch in. So I think having that collaborative, supportive environment is really crucial in an agency environment, particularly because stuff pops up all the time, and you gotta pay attention and be able to redirect.
I think you may have just answered my next question, which was, what is the personality of your company? And it sounds family oriented.
Yeah, I would say it's very family oriented. I think that's really important to me. I mean, I'm a mom, and I grew up, kind of working in a family business. Again, I always kind of think of people as, as a work family. I mean, I realize the difference between my regular family and my work family. I mean, you have to have some some boundaries. So you don't want to feel like you're working all the time. But, I think treating people respectfully, with kindness, listening, these are all important attributes of a good organization. And, again, this mindset of servant leadership. I mean, I feel like that's always been my calling, where I feel like I'm serving others. And I feel that way, certainly with my clients and my staff. It's kind of like, what do you need? I want to get it done for you. Having that kind of mindset, as much as I can possibly do, the best I can possibly give, is what I want to be delivering.
How do you communicate to an employee when they've dropped the ball?
Well, I think, it's always important to look at situations holistically. There usually isn't a dropped ball per se. There's usually something systematic to look at beyond whatever that one situation is. So, and this is something that I tell my students as well. It's really interesting to see how people react when times get tough. You can see a leader and see them every single day and everything's good, right? But let's see that leader when something happens, right? When there is a drop off, when there is a problem. That's where the rubber meets the road. And I haven't talked to you about mentors yet, but I think you're going to ask me about them because mentoring is everything to me. It's actually what I did my dissertation on for my EDD. But my dad was my mentor. And certainly my mom as well. But my dad had this even-keeled way of handling situations when times got tough. And I really appreciated that, as a kid, when I would mess up. And I'd think like, dad's going to kill me kind of thing. And then he didn't. He actually kept a very even keel and handled situations. And I saw him as a business owner, and my mom as well, in tough times, they didn't curse, they didn't get emotional, they dealt with it. And they dealt with it in a very just level way. And I absorbed that because I saw, when everybody else was running around in a tizzy and they were, more neutral in dealing with the situation, that's what helped to neutralize the situation. So getting back to your original question, I think, how a leader deals with problems. Every organization faces problems. Every organization is going to have, every business, every organization is going to have these issues that pop up. So instead of getting into the blame game, which unfortunately a lot of us, a lot of organizations tend to do, I think it's important to look at things more holistically. And what I like to do is I like to solve the problem. If there's a problem going on, I just automatically, I think about my dad, my mom, problem solver hat on, solve problem first. Secondly, and you may need to wait a couple days until the dust settles. That's when you can do your recon. Right? So you do a recognizance and you say, you get the players around the table, or maybe you get them individually and you say, okay, give me your version of what went on here, right? I want to just hear, you don't have to defend, just give me your version of the story. So if I do that with the people that were involved, and I'm not blaming, I just want to hear their side of the story, I'm listening, right? Because that person didn't want to mess up or see a problem. They didn't want that to happen. So I want to hear their version of the story of what was the cause, and more importantly, what can we do to prevent it from happening again? That's always what I'm after as a leader. I want to know what happened, how did it happen, And then what can we, and I want to hear that from who was involved, not just that I'm coming in and saying all of this, because that's when you really, I think, can get to the root of a problem and, bypass all that blaming game, because all it does is create bitterness, and it just wastes a lot of time and creates a lot of bitter feelings.
Is it fair to say that learning has always been a fundamental drive for you?
Yes, absolutely. I love to learn. I'm a sponge. I love to be around people that are going to teach me things. It doesn't matter what it is. I love to be coached. I love being a coach, but I feel like I'm a team player. And, it's fun to change positions in that sense where you're not leading and that you're being coached or you're being taught something. Doesn't matter what it is. I'd love to learn. And I think that love of learning certainly, has driven me to get my degree, my bachelor's degree, my MBA, my doctorate. But I think it's just that love of learning that always is going to motivate me to continue to strive for excellence.
Now, you graduated from Arcadia University with a BA in Communications and English. Then you earned a master's in business administration and then a doctorate in organizational leadership from Stockton University. You serve as an adjunct instructor at the School of Business at Stockton and serve on the New Jersey Tourism Industry Association and the Downtown New Jersey Board of Directors. You are a mentor at the Stockton University Women's Leadership Council and serve on the Stockton School of Business Advisory Board. So my question is, when do you sleep?
I think I will sleep at some point. It's not now. I do sleep every night, but I just feel that honestly, as time goes on, I want to do more, not less. And, a lot of times people will be like, oh, wow, you just got your doctorate? Like, wow, it's a little late in the game for that. I'm like, I'm just getting started. I love what I do. I love coming to work every day, and I always have. No matter what I did, I always loved coming to work. I love to work. I love to exercise my brain. I love interacting with people. I love helping people, which is why I'm so into mentorship. So, sleep will happen, I guess, at some point, but not right now.
How much of your education drives your professional decision making?
I think it has really helped me. When I first graduated with the communication English degree, at that point, I wanted to be a newscaster. I mean, I can remember being a senior at Arcadia, and that was like my sole drive was to be a writer, a journalist. I wanted to be, there was a newscaster at the time. Well, Jim Gardner, of course, now has just recently retired. I grew up watching him. There was Nora Mushanek. There were just so many news reporters that I just revered. And I actually had Nora Mushanek, who was on Channel 6 for eons. I had a connection, and I was able to invite her in to Arcadia my senior year. And it was like, it was just the greatest moment of my life. So, watching all of these stellar people deliver the news every day, I just thought, like, what could be better than that? What could be better than being like live on the scene of some awesome thing that's happening and everybody wants to know about it. And like, you're right there in the middle of it all, telling everyone else about the story. Like, I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. So that's, and the writing of it as well, like writing and video production, all through college. My summers I spent working in video production. So it was like all things coming together, in being a journalist and being a broadcast journalist. But, after I got into it, of course, like everything, you learn, the ropes. And, I realized that I was going to have to travel all over the country if I wanted to continue to grow and to be in larger markets. So, and I was so close with my family. It was a very tough decision to make, but I realized like that probably wasn't going to be my scene to travel, to have to, keep moving, from city to city to get into a larger market. So, I mean, that's when I pivoted out of journalism and got into PR. But journalism is absolutely my foundation for everything that I do as a PR person. It's what got me into PR. My first PR job, those folks hired me. I worked at Showboat Casino. I had no PR experience whatsoever, but it was the news experience because I knew the industry from the inside out. So when you bring that to the table, that helps you tremendously. And, I think that makes all the difference.
As the president of a company, do you see part of that role as a teacher and mentor?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we spend a lot of time training our new hires. We spend a lot of time training our current hires. I mean, we're all always learning because it's all changing. Every minute of the day, things are changing, particularly, on the digital side and the social media side of things. But I think that this role as mentor for me is very important. As you mentioned, I think that I'm involved with the Stockton Women's Leadership Council. I mentor so many people that I've probably lost count. All of my students, can keep in touch with me, still helping them with their references, with their getting jobs, with helping them make career decisions. I mentor a lot of people outside of Stockton as well that will come to me and just ask for career advice. And, I'll never say no. I mean, if somebody, asked me to be their mentor, I don't think I've ever turned anyone down. I can't always offer help to the extent that they might need, but I can at least point them in the right direction to get them to somebody that might be able to help them even a little bit better than me. But I think mentorship is everything. And mentorship for me personally I feel like I'm always being mentored. And that's, if you have this mindset, like you're always learning and you're always growing, you can be mentored by people older than you, but you can certainly be mentored by people younger than you. And if you kind of take that mindset, in the marketing world, we call this reciprocity. And it's a term that I try to, really emphasize with my students. Like, if you ask somebody to be your mentor, what can you bring to the table? So it isn't just what you're going to take from somebody. What can you give to them? Well, hey, they might not have a TikTok, and they want one. So maybe you could set them up on TikTok or whatever. So it has to be reciprocal though. You can't just ask people for things all the time and not give them something back. So that's where, reciprocity really comes into play. And I think as a mentor and a mentee, that is something that, I have, it's a big takeaway for me. And I think that, for everyone, we all have this opportunity to be mentors and mentees. And the cool thing about mentorship is this, Gretchen. Mentorships and mentoring can happen at any moment. It doesn't have to be in this structured format. We do have that at Stockton. We do see that at many universities and in high schools and whatnot. But outside of the school system and higher education, mentoring can happen at any moment. And you just have to have that open mind, that coachability, and have that, just that zest for learning that we've talked about, and welcome that person that's going to mentor you. Again, whether they're older or younger or the same age, it doesn't matter. We all have stuff that we can learn on any day at any moment.
Well said.
Thank you.
How do you maintain a balance between work and life?
I don't know. I'm still working on that. I want to say it's gotten better over the years, but I am a self-professed workaholic, and I love to work. I love to serve. I love to just do stuff. So if that's my only crime, then so be it. But I do take time off. I love to play tennis. I love to go to the gym. I go to the gym pretty much every single day. I paddleboard. I go to the beach. I love to go to concerts. I do a lot of stuff in my free time too. And it isn't like I don't have any free time. We make time for the things that are important to us. And, I should also mention too, my family, that's number one. My kids are number one in my life. They've always been. Anybody that knows me knows that. And they always come first in my life.
Are you a risk taker?
I want to say yes, absolutely. The biggest risk taker that I've ever been, so lucky to know though is my dad. And he was the one that taught me how to take risks. Although his appetite for risk was much greater than mine. So, and I think this is part of the learning process for ourselves individually, and understanding our own brands is what our appetite for risk is. And not everybody's cut out to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody's cut out to take big risks or to put themselves out there. You kind of have to understand what your risk tolerance is. I sound like a banker, but it's true. I mean, some of those philosophies from banking and from leadership, you need to take a look at yourself and say, what am I? And what am I capable of doing? And what's going to keep me up at night versus what's going to help me sleep at night? And if taking on big debt, for example, is something that you can do and it doesn't bother you, then you're probably going to be a developer. You're probably going to get into real estate. If that's not your cup of tea, then you're probably not going to do those things. So it's kind of understanding what your risk tolerance is. I like some risk. I want to say, I'm cautiously optimistic. That's always, kind of been my mantra. So I'm not going to take wild risks, but I do like to take some risk. Yep.
How do you define success?
I think success, honestly, just take the old adage, it's never final. You could be successful one day and, not have such a successful day the next day. So you have to take it in stride. I think personally for me, I don't think about it. I don't think about that. And I've had many people ask me that question over the years. And this is how I kind of look at it. When success will happen when you're not looking for it, if you're trying to be successful, it usually doesn't work that way. Just like when you're trying, desperately to do anything, it happens organically, but it all comes down to hard work. And I'd rather somebody say, wow, Susan, she's a really hard worker than even to say necessarily wow, she's so successful, because success is fleeting. It can change at any moment. I mean, you look at somebody like Steve Jobs. I mean, he's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Totally on top of the world one moment and then not, right? Loses his position at Apple. Obviously he lost his health. He lost his battle to cancer. I mean, it just unbelievable things happen in his lifetime, but he's just kind of a poster child for me to say, you can be successful at any given moment and then you cannot be successful. And it's just a matter of, how much. To me, what's important is how much work you're putting in, how much gusto, hustle, and hard work are you putting in every day. And a lot of this comes down to grit. You got to have that too. And people ask me about, oh, you're an entrepreneur. What do you need to be an entrepreneur? You need grit. That 4-letter word mm-hmm. is really the most important word. I even want to say it's more important than money in most cases, because you got to be able to handle you got to be able to bob and weave. You got to be able to handle the fluctuations. I think success really is built over time. In my case, when I bought the business and formed Persuasion, I bought an existing agency. The agency I bought was not doing well. It was doing terribly. And I was dealt, a kind of a difficult hand of cards. And I bought the business in August of 2007. So it could have been the worst time, really. Now that we've survived the pandemic, I mean, that would have been a rough time too. But 2007 August, not the best time to be buying a business. Mm-hmm. And who knew at that moment? Just like we didn't know right before the pandemic, who knew at that point that things were going to get so rough in the coming years in 2008 with the Great Recession. So, but there was a mindset going into that, we're going to get through this. And it's funny, when you start a business or you do something through difficult times, it hardens you, right? So then when things start to get better and you still keep the same mindset, that you did from 2008 when you were in the Great Recession. You don't spend excessively. You don't, you're not extravagant with your purchases and things like that. Like, you keep that same mindset. That's what I think, at least for me, what has kept us on track.
Where do you see Persuasion in 10 years?
I knew you were going to ask that question. Well, 10 years. 10 years is a long time from now. But I want to say this. I think Persuasion will certainly be a viable company. My hope for it is that it will be expanding in other areas. And I've got my areas in mind. I think that it's, we bring a lot of value to the table. And I think we will continue to do that. And I think, really, now that we've survived the Great Recession, we've survived through COVID, really the future from here can only look bright. And I think 2033 is really not that far away.
No, it's not. Well, thank you for being on the podcast.
It's my pleasure. It really has been a lot of fun. Thanks so much,
It
Gretchen.
sure has. Thank you.